control. It was an illusion, a fleeting mirage that I chased relentlessly. Every day, I found myself gripping the steering wheel of life, knuckles white with the effort to maintain a semblance of order. A fragile shield I desperately tried to hold on to, even as it crumbled around me. The world outside was a storm, unpredictable and wild, and I was caught in its relentless gale. My life felt like a runaway train, careening through darkness with no brakes. The speed was dizzying, the destination unknown. Each day was a blur, a rush of moments that I could barely grasp. Home, however, was my sanctuary, my fortress against the chaos. Within these walls I found a semblance of peace, a place where the storm could not reach me. It was here that I could let my guard down, if only for a moment. Here, I dictated the rules. Here, I could breathe. The air was different, lighter, filled with the scent of familiarity and comfort. Each breath was a reminder that I was in control, at least in this small corner of the world. The old Victorian house stood tall, a stoic guardian against the encroaching night. Its walls whispered stories of the past, tales of resilience and strength that echoed through the halls. Its shadow stretched long and imposing in the moonlight, a silent sentinel watching over me. The house was more than just a structure, it was a living entity, a protector that stood between me and the chaos outside. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of ancient wood and forgotten memories. Each piece of furniture, each book on the shelf, held a story, a fragment of the past that added to the tapestry of my sanctuary. It was a comforting weight, a reminder of times gone by. The ticking of the old clock was a steady heartbeat, a rhythm that grounded me in the present while connecting me to the past. I moved through the dimly lit rooms, each step echoing in the silence. The house was alive with the sounds of its history, a symphony of creaks and whispers that filled the air. The weight of the house settled around me, a familiar embrace. It was a place where I could find solace, where the worries of the world seemed to fade away. Yes, here, within these walls, I could pretend everything was all right. The world outside might be in turmoil, but here, I was safe. Here, I could find a moment of peace. I could pretend I was safe, and sometimes that was enough. In this sanctuary, I found the strength to face another day, knowing that no matter what happened outside, I had a place to return to, a place where I belonged. The grandeur of the manor was undeniable. High ceilings, ornate moldings, and towering bookshelves whispered tales of a bygone era. But within this grandeur lurked an undeniable isolation. The silence was deafening at times, broken only by the creaking of the house as it settled around me. The weight of solitude pressed in, suffocating at times. I wandered through the labyrinthine halls, my footsteps echoing off the cold stone floors. The house was a living entity, breathing with me, watching me. Each corner held a shadow, every gust of wind through the eaves sounded like a whisper. I craved connection, a respite from the unnerving solitude. And that's when Arch would call, his voice a lifeline to the outside world, a dangerous allure in the suffocating quiet. Arch was an enigma, a whirlwind of charm and shadows. Our conversations were a dangerous dance, a delicate balance of attraction and suspicion. He fascinated me, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers down my spine. He claimed to understand my fear, my need for control. He offered a sense of security, a promise of protection, yet his words held a hidden edge, a veiled threat that I couldn't quite decipher. My fingers tightened around the phone as he spoke, his voice weaving a web of comfort and unease. I was drawn to him, to the danger he represented, but at what cost? The sunroom was my haven, a sanctuary bathed in the warmth of the afternoon sun. Surrounded by lush greenery, I could almost forget the darkness that clung to the edges of my life. It was here, in this fragile oasis, that I allowed myself to be at my most vulnerable. Arch's words echoed in my mind as I sipped my tea, the sunlight painting everything in a deceptive tranquility. He had a way of worming his way into my thoughts, planting seeds of doubt and fear. A shiver ran down my spine, a prickle of unease shattering the serenity. I was being watched. I could feel it. The sensation clung to me like a spiderweb, suffocating, inescapable. Section 5, Shadows of Doubt. The feeling of being watched intensified, growing stronger with each passing moment. It was as if invisible eyes were constantly on me, scrutinizing my every move, every breath. The sensation was unnerving, a constant pressure that gnawed at my nerves, making it impossible to relax. I found myself pacing the room, my mind racing with thoughts of who or what could be out there. The shadows seemed to move, to shift, as if they were alive, playing tricks on my mind. I tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it as paranoia, but the feeling was too strong, too persistent. I sat down trying to calm myself, but the unease was overwhelming. I shook my head, trying to clear the thoughts. But deep down, I knew better. This was not just my imagination. Someone was out there, lurking just beyond my sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. I stared out the window, my eyes searching the darkness for any sign of movement. The night was still, but the silence was deafening. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of leaves outside the window sent a jolt of fear through me. It was as if the house itself was alive, conspiring against me. The shadows outside seemed to grow darker, more menacing. I could feel their presence, a silent threat that loomed over me. I was trapped in a cage of my own making, the walls closing in with each passing moment. The fear was suffocating, a constant reminder of my vulnerability. Every sound was amplified, every creak of the floorboard a reminder of my isolation. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a prison. The phone rang, jarring me from my thoughts. It was Arch, his voice both a comfort and a threat. He claimed to be worried, but his concern felt possessive, suffocating. I longed to confide in him, to seek solace in his words, but something held me back. A growing suspicion that he was not who he seemed. His voice, once a source of comfort, now filled me with doubt. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something, that he knew more than he was letting on. The walls seemed to close in further, the shadows growing darker. I was trapped, not just in the house, but in my own mind. The fear, the doubt, it was all consuming. I needed to find a way out, to break free from the shadows of doubt that had taken hold of me. The phone rang again, a lifeline in the darkness. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the receiver. Could I trust him? Could I trust anyone? The doubt gnawed at me, a constant reminder of my isolation. I needed to make a decision, to take control of my own fate. With a deep breath, I picked up the phone. Arch's voice was calm, reassuring, but I could hear the underlying tension. He asked if I was okay, if I needed anything. I wanted to believe him, to trust him, but the doubt was too strong. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. I told him I was fine, that I just needed some time alone. He hesitated, then agreed, but I could hear the concern in his voice. It was both comforting and suffocating. I needed to find a way out, to break free from the shadows of doubt that had taken hold of me. As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of resolve. I couldn't let the fear control me. I needed to take action to find out the truth. The shadows of doubt were strong, but I was stronger. I would find a way out no matter what it took. The night was long, but I was determined. I would not let the shadows win. I would find the truth, no matter how deep I had to dig. The doubt, the fear, it was all consuming, but I was stronger. I would find a way out, no matter what it took. I longed to confide in him, to seek solace in his words, but something held me back. A growing suspicion that he was not who he seemed. His voice, once a source of comfort, now filled me with doubt. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something, that he knew more than he was letting on. I needed to find a way out, to break free from the shadows of doubt that had taken hold of me. The fear, the doubt, it was all consuming. I needed to find a way out, to break free from the shadows of doubt that had taken hold of me. But something held me back, a growing suspicion that he was not who he seemed. His voice, once a source of comfort, now filled me with doubt. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something, that he knew more than he was letting on. The shadows of doubt were strong, but I was stronger. I would find a way out, no matter what it took. The night was long, but I was determined. I would not let the shadows win. I would find the truth, no matter how deep I had to dig. The doubt, the fear, it was all consuming, but I was stronger. I would find a way out, no matter what it took. Section 6. The Unseen Observer. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel the weight of an unseen gaze upon me. I tossed and turned in my bed, the sheets twisted around me like a shroud. Fear was a living thing, pulsating in my veins, choking the air from my lungs. The old house creaked and groaned around me, a symphony of unsettling noises. The wind howled outside my window, its mournful cry mirroring the turmoil within me. I wasn't alone. I could feel it in the marrow of my bones. Someone was out there watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. Section 7. A chilling discovery. Driven by a surge of adrenaline, I threw back the covers and crept towards the window. I had to know, had to see who was tormenting me. The night air was cold against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. Pulling back the curtain, I peered into the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. At first, I saw nothing but the shadows cast by the moon. Then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A figure, tall and menacing, darted between the trees, disappearing into the darkness. It was gone as quickly as it had appeared, leaving me trembling with fear and adrenaline. Section 8. Confrontation and Fear. The phone rang, shattering the silence. I jumped, my heart leaping into my throat. It was Arch, his voice a calm amidst the storm raging within me. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. I couldn't speak. Fear paralyzed me, stealing my voice. How did he know? Was he involved somehow? My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. "Don't worry," Arch continued, his voice a soothing melody that did little to ease my terror. "I'll protect you." But his words offered no comfort. In fact, they sent a fresh wave of fear coursing through me. Because in that moment, I knew. Arch wasn't the solution, he was the problem. Section 9. Trapped in the Sanctuary. The night was thick with an unsettling silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl and your heart race. The city outside was a ghost town, its usual hustle and bustle replaced by an eerie stillness. A knock sounded at the door. It was a sound that shattered the silence, a sound that shouldn't have been there. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. He was here, the one I had been dreading, the one who had haunted my nightmares. My mind raced, trying to think of a way out, but there was none. Arch, or whoever he really was at my doorstep. His presence was a dark cloud, suffocating and inescapable. I could feel his malevolent intent seeping through the door, a tangible force that made my skin crawl. The sanctuary had become a prison, the walls closing in, suffocating me with their false sense of security. What once was a place of refuge now felt like a trap, a cage with no escape. I was trapped, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Every corner of the room seemed to mock my helplessness, every shadow a reminder of my impending doom. Panic clawed at my throat, making it hard to breathe. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering to the floor with a sickening thud. It was my last lifeline, now lying useless on the ground. The sound seemed to echo in the silence, amplifying my fear. The sound seemed to echo in the silence, amplifying my fear. Each second felt like an eternity, the tension in the air so thick it was almost suffocating. I strained to hear any other sounds, but there was nothing. The doorknob rattled, the sound sending shivers down my spine. It was a slow, deliberate movement, as if he was toying with me, savoring my fear. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a painful reminder of my vulnerability. Each click of the lock was a hammer blow to my sanity. The sound was deafening, each click echoing in my mind, driving me closer to the edge. I could feel my grip on reality slipping, my thoughts becoming more frantic and disjointed. He was coming for me, there was no doubt about it. His footsteps were slow and measured, each one a countdown to my doom. I could see his shadow growing larger, more menacing with each passing second. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. My mind raced, searching for a solution, but there was none. I was at his mercy, a prisoner in my own sanctuary. To be continued.